to the Inside series of World Congress of Overseas Pakistanis. So today we have, in fact, presence from 4 different spheres when it comes to the second generation, which we classified as Generation Y. This is the generation which opened its eyes from 1977 to 1994. This is the generation, the second generation of overseas Pakistanis. Now, most of us, and over here, the British Pakistanis, in fact, most of us are familiar with the journey which started in 1950s. The British Pakistanis were mainly imported to this country on request because that was the time when after Second World War, the Great Britain was facing dire need of human resource. And those hard-working people from Pakistan, they moved over here into the industrial states, those places where they needed the human resources and the hands. And they contributed to the rise of the Great Britain again in the 1960s and 1970s. Those were the times when most of them came to this country mainly as economic migrants, thinking as working over here for 5 to 10 years and then moving back to their original country, Pakistan. However, things changed in the last 3 to 4 decades. Now, in the shifting sands, is a different kind of scenario. No more people coming over here to go back to their respective land where they came from. They are now making the Great Britain, the UK, their permanent land of adoption. Now, once it is happening, we are seeing the success stories, people who came with nothing, and at the same time, they created everything. We have stories like Sir Anwar Pervez, we have stories like James Khan, we have stories like Saida Warsi, and so many people. Now, this was the generation, which was the first generation of those Pakistanis who came to this country, and they made their mark. But at the same time, now it is the second and third generation, Generation Y and Generation Z. The question is, do we have the similar hardworking achievers, high achievers in the second and third generation of the British Pakistanis, or we are losing out on the second or third generation? So we have the debate which is going to be looked from the academic angle, from the financial and professional angle, and from the political angle. We're going to look into how we can support the second and third generation of the British Pakistanis in achieving higher, even better than the first generation, which in fact, which created lots of success stories. So are we going to create many success stories in the second and third generation as well? Now, to look at this angle, the first speaker is Dr. Humaira Ishfaq. She is doing her postdoc at the Cambridge University, and she's going to look into the aspect from the academic angle. She will be followed by Sayyida Sultana, who would explore from the media angle the similar question. So after the talk, we would open the floor for the question and answer, and we appreciate your patience during this time. So many thanks. Let's welcome Dr. Humaira Ishfaq.
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to say I'm very thankful to World Congress organization that give me a chance to speak with and interact with the very good persons and like very successful people around me. And this is first time when I am just interacting with some Pakistani community and especially with Y generation, because I just newcomer here and I just spent 1 or 2 months here and I got very different experience from different sides. But still, I want to say this is just like observation, but because it's not based on the primary experiences, because only Y generation can explore very well what they have, some challenges and what they have. But some like observer, I want to just share some things with you, because I'm not very good like Arifani is to speak very well. So I just write down some arguments. So I just want to share with you. I want to just highlight very little about the background of the migration, which every person know, but I just want for the brain warming, just want to share with you. Migration is the act or process of the people moving from one place to another place with the ambition, intent of staying in the destination permanently or for a relatively long time. The world we live in today is changing rapidly, and migration is seen to be a key contributor to this change. Migration is being recognized as a central dimension, altering the lifestyle patterns, religious and cultural needs, leaving both positive as well as negative impacts on the lives of societies at large. Muslim immigrants communities hailing from diverse ethnic and socio-cultural backgrounds like other countries and societies have become settlers in various countries. Muslim migrants by default are bound to follow the policies of host countries, ensuring enhanced process of cohesion and integration among various communities, and in addition to the challenge of absorption in the host society, they are faced with the diverse range of challenges. Over the last half of the 20th century, Muslim in Europe established social, religious, and political footholds through establishment of the institutions and centers. But this infrastructure is being challenged in the post 9/11 and 7/7. The role of globalization is becoming critical for Muslim in Europe, as any development in their home countries would affect them, and any issue related to migrants in Europe would raise voices in Muslim majority countries. In the 1960s and 70s, a small number of Pakistani immigrants to Europe in order to find a better standard of living and support their families back home. Over the decades, their numbers have swelled, and today the European continent hosts second and third generation Pakistanis. According to the estimates of the Pakistani government, more than 7 million Pakistanis or people of Pakistani origin live outside Pakistan. Most of these people are just living at the Gulf countries, but mostly 2.2 million Pakistanis in Europe. Around half these individuals live in the United Kingdom. The second and third generation of Pakistanis in Europe are very different from their predecessors. Most are well educated and better integrated to their respective European societies, and especially to the UK. I just want to just highlight about the challenges to just wind up about my debate. Challenges I just want to start about. Despite of the fact that British Pakistanis during the 70s and 80s have made tremendous contribution in socio-economic uplift of UK, but even after the decade of efforts for being recognized voice of the youth born between 80s and 90s, often encounter to hear notions like, where are you from? This is generally the first question people here in the UK will ask you. That is because with people from over 100 nationalities settled in the UK, this is quite literally the melting pot of the culture. The Pakistani diaspora is to certain extent integrated into its respective European countries. Nonetheless, like other minorities, it faces different challenges and issues related to discrimination and assimilation due to the difference in culture and religion. Out of varied challenges faced by the second and third generation of the diaspora, issues of identity, image, and need for social cohesion are selected for the topic of discussion. In the aftermath of 9/11 and the sad incident of 7/7 in UK, Pakistanis have been suffering from image problem despite having many positive things to its credit. Most significantly, overseas Pakistanis have been doing their best to tackle the menace to terrorism, not only for its own interests but also for the whole world. Unfortunately, the world in general and the West in particular have not been giving Pakistanis its due credit. The Western media has been highlighted only those things where the image of Pakistan could be tarnished, and has been vociferous in the demanding more, the doing more syndromes. Like other minorities in UK, specific towns or cities host specific minorities in various towns. For example, Southall in West London, in the city of Bradford in Yorkshire in the UK. This trend is changing, however, and many third generation Pakistanis has moved to new areas and integrated into mainstream society. There is no general consensus about how to deal with their identity, image, religious, and social cohesion problems associated with their absorption. An important aspect of labeling and discrimination in UK generally towards Muslim is the issue of being referred to as British Pakistanis. This is crucial difference from the situation in the USA, where the emphasis is the other way around. There are not American Pakistanis but Pakistani Americans. There are Americans first and foremost, implying implying a sense of belonging and to acceptance which Europe sometimes struggle to match. In UK, these citizens are a minority and not part of the mainstream. And now I just want to highlight about some opportunities, how can we achieve. Lastly, in the rapidly changing world with the advancement of technologies, uncertain geopolitical and economic situation, globalization of trade, interdependencies, cultural diversities, and economic interests, the interest of the host country and the Pakistani diaspora also coincide. There is thus a need of engage with the diaspora in a systematic way. The following recommendations in this regard determine the role of Pakistani's diaspora in holding the ground for the social cohesion based not only the achievements for their first generation, rather holding their own uniqueness, identity, and projection of soft image and searching for common grounds. First, I just want to share there should be just some opportunities I want to just set in a bullets. You can just understand enough details. There should be a recognition that the Pakistani diaspora in UK could act as a bridge and become instrumental to social cohesion in socio-economic, political, and cultural well-being in UK. The other is youth interfaith forums, club, and associations at various academic institutions, public and private sector organizations would be an effective mechanism for determining and estimating how and where the diaspora can play an effective role in UK as well as their countries of origin. Third, initiating diaspora-led programs mainly focusing on sharing common ground, socio-cultural commonalities. And third and fourth generation should not only encourage mutual interaction through organizing national days and events, but also engaged in some kind of social and welfare and initiatives so that their presence as an integral part of the social cohesiveness is felt. This mutual interaction and relation would be able to use their influence in the UK to enhance their soft image and provide platform for advocacy. Next, engaging in the dialogue with the lobbying with the political parties, media, social forums with the objective that Pakistani diaspora, especially the ones born between 1977 to 1994, can play an effective role in addressing the challenges of their own, but also other communities, religious groups. Next, I want to share more dialogues is required to understand the mindset of Pakistani's diaspora in UK and to make them feel part of UK society rather than outsiders always answerable for a defensive about the so-called clash of civilizations. And the other point is that they shall play their active role as voice of all, not voice of self, so that enabling environment for lobbying, policy making is created and give the diaspora stake in the whole process. Last point I want to share, the academia in general and social activists in particular, especially Pakistani diaspora, along with diaspora leaders, shall initiate public-private partnership programs to commission studies on challenges and opportunities faced by the second and third generation of the diaspora. And how can we look in with these challenges, and how can we look in the for opportunities within these conditions and situations? Diaspora are always mutually beneficial to both the sending and the receiving countries for projecting their true image, identity, considered as contributing factor for broader social cohesion. Therefore, we must admit the fact that interest of host country like UK and Pakistani diaspora coincide as far as stability and progress of both is concerned. Why the third and fourth generation can be so effective is because of their distinctive position as more educated, aware, and technology advanced as compared to their ancestors. But for that, they need to address the trust deficit instead of address the perception of creating by media through engagement and the initiation of dialogue to create positive perceptions. Contribute to broader national diaspora forum like in South Africa, a university is heading countries' diaspora commission. Similarly, they shall also learn to understand other cultures and systems. They need to understand global and regional systems and propose those cultures universals which relate to outside world.
Thanks for a very comprehensive initiation. When Humera talked about image and image making and image building. This is where Syed Kamaraza is going to introduce you later about what World Congress of Overseas Pakistan is going to accomplish in this particular aspect. Now, looking at the media aspect, we all understand that for media, when a dog bites a man, it doesn't make a news. But when a man bites a dog, that makes the news. And that media keeps hunting the negative news. And usually they find it. Now, particularly when we look at the Pakistani diaspora, we have on one hand Amir Khan, who is a world heavyweight, lightweight boxer, is world champion. The second generation of British Pakistanis. At the same time, then we find a lot of bad news. We hear about the grooming. We hear about those cases which become embarrassing. We hear about those radicalized individuals as well. And the British media and the tabloids, usually they don't find, they don't spare us. When they find us playing a loose ball, they usually strike it pretty well. Now, the second speaker is going to shed light on this particular aspect. She has been dealing media officially from the platform of Pakistan High Commission. She was a spokesperson of Pakistan High Commission in the UK. So perhaps she's the best person. At the same time, she's doing her PhD in this particular discipline and looking into the diaspora and the media connection. So let's invite Sayyida Sultana, and she's already here, as she sheds light, and let's welcome her outside.
First of all, I am very grateful to WCOP for inviting women to speak on this occasion. When I saw the list of speakers, I was so happy to see that first woman, second a woman, third a woman. So credit goes to you, and I think it's a very good trend, and particularly it's the event is very close to International Women's Day, so let's celebrate this event also as something about women's empowerment. Actually, when you talk about media and Pakistani diaspora here or Pakistan as such, sometimes we also have some very deep misperceptions about how we are portrayed in media, and that further, weakens our confidence in ourselves. As a person who had been monitoring British media for about 4 years, and I still monitor it now, and who was responsible for, issuing rebuttals or clarifications on every story, negative story that appeared in media, I had a very good chance of having a look at different stories and how they were portrayed, but like some of my misconceptions were also cleared through that process. When we talk about portrayal of Pakistani diaspora, particularly Generation Y in media, we actually have to see in the context of socio-economic and political developments in the United Kingdom, as well as global developments, because socio-economic reality and political reality actually is reflected very well in media. And these are economic realities, political realities, they actually have very strong bearings on inter-community relations, on the tensions between different communities, the struggle between different communities, which ultimately generates stories, and which ultimately lead to some kind of image at one particular era or one particular span of time. Generation Y, which is like born between 77 to 94, at this stage, there are people who are either on the one end of the spectrum, they are about 37 years old, those who were born in 77, and the ones who were born in 94 would be completing their teenage years and would be entering 20s during this year. The first strand, like those who were born in 77, when they were growing up in 80s and 90s, it was era of neoliberalism, and conservative politics was gaining an upper hand, and cuts on social benefits, resources, Thatcher, milk snatcher, things were like taking place. And when resources are less and like people start asking what these immigrants are doing here. They are like actually contenders for on our privileges, or they are actually competitors in this world of resources. So there were lots of tensions between South Asian youth and British youth those times, and actually British youth also had very difficult relationship with society and government, and still has, and there are always issues which surrounded British youth as well. So in 80s and 90s, there were mainly racist issues which were like came into limelight, and racism was the main factor, and economic and social competition, unemployment of Pakistanis was there. So media depicted it that way. It was an issue of racism then, and Pakistani diaspora was seen as victims of racism that time. Then as we move on to this millennium, and the other strand of Pakistani generation, and I think those who are in their 20s now, and in between intermediary generation as well, like when they were growing up, it was a big change on global scene took place, like 9/11 and then 7/7, and then it added an element of religion and terrorism. Islam came to be seen as synonymous to terrorism most of the time, and Pakistanis being Muslims, they actually came into that ambit, and they were like very badly affected by this thing, because majority of Pakistanis are Muslims, and particularly young male. They had a big problem about their identity, and media started showing stories like terrorism trainings in Pakistan. Any act of terrorism, no matter whatever it was traced back to its roots were traced back in Pakistan. So unfortunately, when people start perceiving themselves and in one light or the other, that starts affecting intercommunity relations as well. You feel very uncomfortable with other communities. Other communities start feeling uncomfortable with your existence. So this discomfort actually took a very deep root here, and Pakistanis are like trying to resolve these issues. And then again, in 2010, arrest of students made very big story. Then 2012, these issues of child sex grooming, they came up, and it was a big shame for Pakistani community. And as a press officer at Pakistan High Commission, like issuing a rebuttal for that story was a big, I actually thought, it was the first time I thought that why I'm on this place, because I had to write that, okay, 80% of these crimes were committed by white people, but Pakistanis are being maligned. But I would have expected that not even a single Pakistani would have done this thing. So that was a very big shame for all of us. So it brings us to a place where we see that not all that is projected in media is stereotyped or it's meant to malign one community or the other. If you actually have to see the characteristics of press in that particular country. British press doesn't spare anyone. British media doesn't spare anyone. They don't even spare their prime ministers. If you remember this scandals of politicians which were published by Telegraph, they make big news. And wherever in the world any such thing takes place, they make big news, because good news is not a cup of tea of media. But still, there were so many positive stories which I monitored in British media. And like I was so happy to see that, like Kamla Shamsi, a Pakistani writer, she was given very good coverage in British media. Amir Khan is always given a good coverage in media. There's this lady Namira, who is first Pakistani astronaut. Whenever smooth elections took place in Pakistan, credit was always given to Pakistan for holding peaceful elections. There's so many positive stories which I had compiled. So, I mean, we actually also have to look at ourselves. We have to own our problems also, that the way we are dealing with our problems, and we never own the problems which are brewing in our communities. So media actually picks up stories when you don't own the problems, when you don't try to resolve problems. Media picks up those stories, media splashes those stories. And it's not only about Pakistan. Look at India, like anything bad happens in India, and that is splashed in British media. But with India, our difference is that their movies, their other cultural events, they actually, they are very well known in Western countries. So there is some ground which balances out all the negativity. And now, like in an age where media has also developed, like if you see portrayal, we also have to see the development of media. Back in 80s, few newspapers, few magazines, limited time for TV transmissions, so nothing could go viral. But today, what we see is 24/7 channels, so much of social media, so much of digital media, any bad thing and it goes viral in seconds. But that also gives us empowerment. We also have access to that media. Why can't we create good stories? Why don't we communicate? Actually, the main problem lies with us as well. We don't communicate to the Western world. We don't communicate to them in English. If you go through Sky channels in the range of 5, there is CCTV, Japanese TV, Spanish TV, Indian TV, but PTV, global, nowhere. And we receive signals of PTV Global here. There's not even a single one, or even a 1-hour program in English on PTV, or there's no program about our communities here. We don't celebrate our communities here. They have been like contributing so well to the society. They're high achievers, and they, as Dr. Saab said, that when they came here, they actually built the economy. They regenerate the economy of Britain. So that is a very big thing to be taken pride of and to celebrate. Our businessmen, they are contributing immensely here. And they employ people. I mean, our children are not running for jobs. They know that sometimes it's hard for them to get jobs. So they are entrepreneurial. They are setting up their business. They are employing themselves, and they are employing 2 more people, at least 2 more people. So these are things that we have to celebrate, we have to communicate, and we have to actually give confidence to our younger generation that you also have strengths, and the generations which were previous to you, they also had strengths. So until and unless we start perceiving ourselves as people with some strengths, we are not going to show a good face to the world. And most important thing is to communicate to the world the way it should be done. Thank you.
There's a famous joke, in fact, which relates to President Obama and David Cameron and President Putin. 3 sat in a time machine, and that was 100 years ahead. And it's a long story, but when David Cameron called, in fact, 100 years ahead, 10 Downing Street, he was attended by someone who was speaking Punjabi, in fact. So that was something that was mainly to reflect the power of the diaspora. They feared that probably someday we could have a prime minister from the British Pakistanis. And in fact, yes, we could hope, because the next speaker I'm going to call, she's the epitome of Generation Y, in fact. She symbolizes what our next generation might look like. The first generation where we started with Chaudhry Sarwar in Scotland as the first MP, and now we have 7 MPs in the Parliament House, in the House of Commons. At the same time, with the other addition, I think it was six lords and baronesses. Now, with this kind of score, we are making headway, and that's quite significant. Probably more significant than any other diaspora community in the UK. We have the pleasure of having the youngest councillor in the UK, and she happens to be a British Pakistani. And she is going to shed light on how she managed to crawl her way upward. Now, it's not that much upward. We hope to see her sometime in the House of Commons and probably ahead. But she's going to share that as a politician or as someone who is carving out her career in politics, how she sees the British community or the British society opening up to the Generation Y when it comes to the political opportunity. So let's give a big hand to Rabia Patti.
Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and welcome. It's both an honour and privilege to be with you all here today at the University of Cambridge to talk on the issues and obstacles faced by the Generation Y and British Pakistanis in particular when it comes to political participation, activism and engagement. My colleagues today have already touched on a number of exceptional points about the question of identity, which is paramount in understanding the question of perception. At this point, I would like to take a pause and thank WCOP for bringing us all here together. It's platforms such as these that allow and enable communication, as Saida was saying slightly earlier, that ensure that we can build each other up together, not only for ourselves and our own development, but indeed for both our nations in order to marry them together in a collaborative effort to move on. So, when talking about young people, specifically British Pakistanis, it is fundamental to factor in how they perceive not only themselves, but how they are perceived by others, in order to fully grasp where the problem arises. A study by the University of Essex shows that 90% of Pakistanis feel a strong sense of belonging in Britain. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a significant number of Pakistanis that correlate to those numbers. If the myth that Muslims, or indeed British Pakistanis in Britain, will not integrate is allowed to be propagated, it will only lead to the continuation of a harmful cycle whereby greater distrust and animosity is sown. The results of this can be devastating. While politicians may claim that multiculturalism has failed, there is a strong case to be made that it operates successfully every day when British Pakistanis of different backgrounds, such as we see here today, convivively cooperate alongside each other in order to make sure the nation is what it is today. The truth is that identity-wise, British Pakistanis are integrated, do feel at home in Britain, and are quite simply as British as the next person. This rather unexciting conclusion is actually rather exciting, as it lays to bed many of the unwarranted concerns about fitting in and identity that are held about the Pakistani diaspora. The above then begs the question: if young British Pakistanis really do feel such an affinity towards Britain, why is there a prevalent, almost contagious lack of participation from them? One of these possibilities could be that participation in electoral politics has declined over Western Europe in recent decades, as citizens have become increasingly disillusioned with conventional forms of politics. This is especially true for the current generation of young British Pakistanis who have turned to alternative forms of political engagement that seem to have more relevance to their everyday lives. Indeed, in the aftermath of the global financial crisis, we have witnessed a resurgence of youth political protest. The hallmark of young people's politics is diversity, a wide array of participatory acts performed across hybrid public spaces. And by this I refer from Twitter to the town square, something I'm sure we are all very familiar with. But we must also be concerned with who participates. In particular, ladies and gentlemen, I call your attention to the large social inequalities inherent in non-electoral forms of engagement. There is overwhelming evidence to show that young people are not, contrary to popular belief, apathetic about politics in a broader sense. They have their own views and engage in a democracy in a wide variety of ways. Indeed, it is young people themselves who are diversifying political engagement from consumer politics to community campaigns. The slow-burning participatory crisis in democratic politics has become transformed by the new rise of youth protest and participation. Today's young people, both in the UK and Pakistan, can be portrayed as standby citizens. They have a preference for intermittent, non-institutionalized, horizontal forms of engagement on issues that have relevance for their everyday lives. In this context, the proliferation of protest politics amongst young British Pakistanis is hardly surprising. We only need to look at 2011, the year that saw waves of young people rise up and overthrow their leaders in North Africa and the Middle East, and you're under no illusions that yes, I do refer to the Arab Spring. Youth activism has in fact also become a major feature of world politics. From mass demonstrations of the outraged young against political corruption and youth unemployment to the Occupy movement against the excesses of global capitalism and indeed the participation of young people in the previous Pakistani elections. In this sense, young people's politics remains vibrant as repertoires of participation have become more diverse. On the other hand, the fact that in Britain these alternative forms of engagement are much less socially equal than voting is very troubling. Which brings me on to my next point. If we can now see that young British Pakistanis are indeed actually creating a new type of politics, one that is more in line with grassroots petition and protest in towns and university campuses, how then do we channel this participation into the more formal arena of politics where they can make a nationwide difference? The answer, I believe, lies in education. In educating our young people, not just in schools, but in the home about the fundamental impact that it plays from our foreign policy strategy to what time the trains run in the morning, we can ignite and drive their creativity towards a new kind of thinking. It is in the home that when parents talk to their children about becoming doctors and lawyers and helping people, that they indeed need to start looking and introducing the concept of political activism, being an open option to their children. Once we start believing in their power to make a difference, they will indeed feel encouraged to do so. The second solution would be to start channeling their frustrations with government into a positive energy. Once we can alter the mentality of British Pakistanis when it comes to the nation, we can begin to make headway towards changing the system to one that better represents the vibrant society that we call our home. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude by saying the only real obstacle that, in my personal opinion, experience and observation, is that when it comes to politics, the mental barrier that we allow ourselves to create in our minds and in the minds of our young people is the only one that we need to obliterate. It can only be overturned by a joint effort in realising how much of a difference could be made to the lives of millions living in this country when we have more people from different backgrounds, religious beliefs and ethnicities sitting around decision-making tables. We cannot and must not rest until there is fair and equal representation in our council chambers and in our ministerial cabinet. The Pakistani diaspora in this country is able, it is indeed hard-working, and we are full of intellectual capital and bright individuals who should be given a platform to make a difference on the political scene, to not only progress Britain, but to also help change and overturn the misconceptions and image of Pakistan as a nation itself. Thank you.
We are breaking away from the chain of female speakers and probably going to invite a male one now. A few quick facts relevant to the diaspora. In fact, we are 8 million Pakistanis, overseas Pakistanis, in 144 countries of the world. 144 countries. And in the UK, we are 1.3 million. Probably it might be a bit of surprising, but in the UK, could you give me the biggest chunk of the British Pakistanis? Now that is 64%. 64% Pakistanis, that the British Pakistanis, they come from Mirpur or Kashmiri backgrounds, which is in fact mainly due to the large-scale migration in 1950s and 1960s. And recently a survey, in fact, which found the hottest Pakistani, the most well-known Pakistani in the UK. I don't know if someone could name it. Belonging to Generation Y, in fact. And that is Zain Malik, right? The survey found out that he is the most widely known Pakistani, the British Pakistani in the UK. Zain Malik of One Direction. And once again, a positive success story and in terms of the contribution from Pakistan, or Pakistani, on such a global and international scale. A survey from the YouGov, which is one of the globally known organization, WCOP and YouGov, they both joined hands, and we conducted a survey, which is present in this magazine as well. And the survey found out that the British Pakistanis are mainly known for being hardworking and entrepreneurial. And a positive and pleasant surprise is that we, the British Pakistanis, are 300% more entrepreneurial compared to the white population. 300% in terms of entrepreneurial spirits. Reason that we don't get many jobs, but then we make the most of it, and we turn it into an opportunity. Now, from that aspect, one of our hottest export have been those engineers and doctors, professionals who went to the UK, the USA, and other countries, and they really made a big difference when it came to the image of Pakistan. We have one among us present today who would be our next speaker, Dr. Sohail Chugzai, who is, in fact, an orthopedic surgeon. At the same time, he is an international speaker. And he has done an amazing thing by setting up a channel which is making a huge difference in terms of the image of Pakistan. TVapex is his project, his brainchild. And we are so glad that he joined us today. So, over to Dr. Sohail Chugzai.
Thank you, Ali, for introduction, and I appreciate the comments, and I've learned so much from the speakers before me, and I think I should start by thanking WCOP. The co-chairperson is here. It's a great platform, World Congress of Overseas Pakistanis. They have connected Pakistanis, and not just praising each other, but they've actually taken Pakistanis on a platform where other nationalities can see them transparently, loud and clear. Thank you, Kamal Azhar Saab, to start this initiative, and TVapex will support you very much. I want to pick up one topic from the previous speakers, and I liked when you said identity crisis. I think I want to address that. I've seen it in my orthopedic practice, young house job doing doctors, my patients, and my associates, my colleagues. I really want to address that because the other things as well, but I think this really attracts me. May I just start with identity crisis, how this is stopping Pakistanis to rise above the level where they can go. They have so much potential. Whether they stay in Pakistan, they go out, but identity crisis is one obstacle. So what is identity crisis? I think if you know the name of Erik Erikson, he was one of the famous psychosocial psychologists, psychosocial development psychologist back in 1970s. He coined the term of identity crisis. And he said, this is if I can remember his words, he said, it is a state of psychosocial disorientation and role confusion. So psychosocial disorientation and role confusion, usually seen in adolescents, but caused by basically conflicting experiences, and also by extreme pressures from colleagues, some expectations internally or externally, and sometimes by simple economic diversity. So that leads to what? It leads to an extreme self-analysis. Who am I? That is the beginning of identity crisis. You start thinking, you start doubting yourself. Am I what I look like? Who am I? And that is the first arrest of your development. You cannot even expand horizontally, let alone vertically. The moment you start thinking, who am I? You're standing on air, not on ground. So you need to come down and put your feet down. And that is really I want to address, that why this problem is haunting Pakistanis and how can we overcome. I won't take much time, but I just want to address that. Now what is, all of us sitting here either care about identity or we don't. Let's say if we care about identity, we like to be committed to belong to some identity, we can be one of three types. We can have a very committed identity, but without exploration. We can be committed to be known to a group, but we may not have done exploration. That's called as pro-closure identity. which means that you've actually decided what you want to be. Either you'd never had a chance to explore yourself or you don't want to. Example is people living in Pakistan, for instance, many of them, no need to explore. Your neighbor is looking like you. The neighbor of your neighbor is looking like you. The neighbor of that neighbor is slightly different, but he speaks like you. So there's no need to explore for less thinkable peoples. The second part, second identity you may have is you've explored and you've reached a conclusion. That's what I want to be. British Pakistani or anything. So that's called as identity achieved status. But there's a third status. If you don't belong to any one of these two, you may be in the third category, which is moratorium, which means you're trying to find your identity. Okay, British Pakistanis from Y generation, 20 years age, who are now, they may be in the moratorium stage. They are trying to find their identity, and they are not settled yet. They're on the way. They're stepping up. So this is for those people who care about identity. What about those who don't? I don't care about identity. So what is your category? That's called as identity diffusion, which means basically you don't care, but there's a problem with that. When you stop caring about belonging to a group, you fall prey to negative identity. People who have no identity, they are more likely to have a negative identity, which means depending on your personality, you can go into drugs and crimes, or if you're a weaker person, you can go into a state of inability to decide for your career, a state of indecisiveness. So you're a person who is kind of in the state of procrastination, is trying to delay and postpone everything. So that's one thing which is stopping Pakistanis in our society who don't care about identity. They're just living their time. They go into state of procrastination, and most of them fall prey to negative identity because that's where they express. They get appreciation. You're good, you're that and this. So they fall prey, and one of the sex grooming issues is that group where Pakistanis fell prey to negative identity because they didn't care about identity. So what I'm trying to come at is basically, please remember, it's very important part of your personality to define your identity. You have to proactively do it. And if you're asking your question to yourself, who am I? Congratulations. You're putting your step first on the first step of the road to discover yourself, because you're actually not self-doubting yourself, you're trying to know yourself more. There's a difference. So people who are trying to find themselves, eventually, if they do it proactively, they will reach somewhere. And that is where the development of society starts. Because you will not only be inspiring people by learning, but you will be actually representing a community and be proud of that. So I think part of our problem of professionals in Pakistani society is that they are either they don't care about identity. They feel it's something which doesn't have to be there. We can spend time, we can make our living, and that's it. And that makes them very vulnerable to fall into negative identity. And I fear that if that number increases, that comes as a bad news. And bad news, as you know, travels far and wide. You know, people forget that the guy scored 200 runs yesterday when he does a no ball by taking 20 pounds. People forget that Pakistani cricket team did so good, and two people cannot smear the history of Pakistan cricket team when they do ball tampering or match tampering. So negative news, please try and avoid. Don't be part of it. Try and see yourself where you stand, and try and avoid being part of negative energy, negative news. I think we should, if you had time, Google Eric Erickson, a psychosocial development psychologist who will tell you more about how can you be a very strong identity for yourself. Now, I think that attached to this topic is a brief information about, what is, in a layman's term, identity. It's basically the smile on your face. Why do you smile? When do you smile? When you feel confident. Okay, you may be wearing a $1,000 dress, But if you're looking shaky, people will not notice your dress. So that smile is your confident stance and your energy and your identity. You know you're settled. Have you seen those guys who do rubbish things, but they do it with confidence? They look good. They look wonderful. Because they're doing it with confidence. They know what they're doing. They're happy with they are. They're happy, lousy, great doers. But people love them. So be happy doers. Do with conviction. Just don't do it because someone asks you to do it or it's a job. Either don't do it or do with conviction. So that smile is your identity. That will resolve the problems. And you remember there's a famous saying, you're never really dressed unless you smile. So please smile and be confident and carry your image in a very, very positive way. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak on this forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for very insightful comments. And right now we're almost ending it, but we have one comment. One of the main concern of the British authorities when it comes to the education attainment level of different communities within the British society, that is the low attainment level of Pakistani students. But this might come as a surprise, but Pakistani students in the generation Y and Z, they are now ranked in the lowest category with Afro-Caribbean students, with Bangladeshis and Afro-Caribbean students, which is certainly surprising for one reason, because we have produced few of the best scientists, few of the best academics. But overall, when we look at 1.3 million Pakistanis and then the indigenous British Pakistanis in the generation Y and Z, we are certainly losing on that turf. Now, this is really important to grasp this deterioration. And I'm going to invite comment from Sarah Aslam, who is our host over here today as well. She is a student at Cambridge. Studying at Cambridge or Oxford, usually that is considered one of the best dream coming true kind of stuff when it comes to the British Pakistanis or Pakistanis. Now, as a student at Cambridge, I think she has learned her way how and when and where we Pakistanis are failing in terms of education attainment. She sacrificed her time for other speakers, so we are grateful for that. She would just have a brief comment on this particular aspect, and then we go for the conclusion. Thank you very much. So, over to Sarah.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for being here today. It's fantastic to see such a great turnout, particularly towards the end of term, and particularly seeing as you guys have come all the way from London. I guess I actually want to take a little bit more of a positive stance on the attainment by Pakistanis and British Pakistanis. And the reality is that actually there's a huge spectrum, just like British Caucasians, which British Pakistanis actually fill. And I suppose the best example I can give is my own family. So take me, for instance. I'm a very patriotic British citizen. I'm a very patriotic Pakistani. And the reality is that you have diverging views. So myself, as an example, I'm studying here. I've worked at PwC as a management consultant, where actually I've seen so many British Pakistanis. I've seen so many Pakistanis actually working there as management consultants, as auditors, etc. And I would actually say that there are a lot more Pakistani ethnic people working in these workplaces as opposed to British people. And I think that this is actually quite an achievement because proportionally, I would have expected a lot more British people working in such places. So actually, it was quite eye-opening for me to actually be in this environment. Then moving on to my brother, he again is very Pakistani in terms of his food, but in terms of his actual patriotism, it's very much geared more towards the British side. And the reality is that is fine. It's actually great that he's integrating, as Rabia said, and you actually should own your identity, as Dr. Sale said. And he's working as an accountant in the Big Four again, but he has sort of abandoned his Pakistani identity. then I'm moving on to my cousin. She, again, is working in the Big Four. She's worked very hard, was graduated from SOAS. And she, again, has abandoned the Pakistani side for a more Islamic side. And again, this is fine because you are still achieving in the name as a British Pakistani, as a British Muslim, etc. So I thought I would bring all of these together and actually say that what is the link? What is the link between all of us? And I think that the link is actually that, fine, whether we're close or whether we're not close to our individual heritages, the reality is that we have got embedded in us in an ethos which actually is hardworking, which is an ethos which is actually one of a doer. And I think that this is what drives us. This is what gives us those goals to actually look forward to and to actually achieve things in the workplace. So I think that actually having such high levels of representation within politics, as you mentioned, within medicine as an example, and within the academic sphere is actually fantastic. And on that very positive note, I thought that I would just let you know that actually British Pakistanis are doing very well, and we should keep doing that, whether it's in the name of British Pakistanis, whether it's in the name of British Muslims, whether it's in the name of just British citizens. And yes, so on that note, thank you very much, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to take some.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Yeah, yes, we are finishing now. The good news now, after learning about the opportunities and the challenges, and here we have the challenge of identity, we have the challenge of assimilation, we have the challenge of integration, the education attainment, but we have the good news and the bad news, and let's create more of the good news, in fact. Now, finally summing it up, it goes to Syed Kamar Raza, who is an entrepreneur and who has been the president of UK-Pakistan Chamber of Commerce. He is the co-founder of this organization, World Congress of Overseas Pakistanis. And he is going to shed light what actually this Congress is doing to meet up those challenges and to create more opportunities. So he's going to share the vision of the organization and what the organization has already done in terms of integration and in terms of creating more opportunities for the British Pakistanis. So let's give a big hand to
Dr. Humaira Ishaq, Saida Sultana, Consul Rabia Bhatti, Dr. Sohail Chughtai, Sarah Aslam, and respected audience. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. I'm very grateful for your presence and value addition to important debate on the future of British Pakistani diaspora in the United Kingdom. World Congress of Overseas Pakistanis hosted this debate to draw attention to the issue of the next generations of the British Pakistanis diaspora with the aim to add the existence, knowledge and insight based on the intergenerational perspective where quite little work has been done so far. We also wanted to provide an opportunity to younger British Pakistanis generations express their concerns, issues, ideas, and fears. It is essential to provide a platform for the first, second, and third generation, the generation of Pakistani diaspora, to have dialogue on the issue of importance, and there seems to be a disconnected that must be bridged. Such interactions provide a window to understand the lack of linguistic and cultural transference in the coming generation and the much hyped alienation from the parental roots and figure out the antidote if it is much hyped. At the same time, one of the premier objectives is to motivate and inspire the younger generation to achieve more in academic, entrepreneurship, and politics, where they have a lot of success stories available from preceding generations. As we see, we had a very interesting points of views and perceptions from the academic, professionals, politicals, and achievement perspectives. We have heartening stories of success, triumphs, and attainment like Sir Anwar Pervez, Baroness Warsi, James Khan, like youngest Consular Rabia Bhatti, from the next generation. However, we could clearly see the buck does not stop there. One point which was raised, and I would agree that the first generation did not plan much in regards to the second and the third generation. As someone already pointed out, the first generation was kind of stuck between staying in the UK and going back to Pakistan, which affected its outlook at the long-term scenario. Now, as I see, things have changed a lot. As for myself, I see the Great Britain as my country, and country of my dream came true, and I hold it so close to my heart. It is country of my future generations now. It is country for which I could live and I could die if the need may arise. There's no doubt, because this is our country and that's what our belief is, We can die for this country because we believe this is our country. My coming generations are here. My life is mostly here. My most time I spend here than somewhere else, There's no doubt we love Pakistan. Pakistan is our country of origin, and our hearts are with the Pakistan. But same time, and I think it will be not fair if we are going out of line from Great Britain.
Actually, both of these countries are like body and soul.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I agree with you. As a founder and co-chairman of the World Congress of Overseas Pakistanis, I'm here not to talk about the problems, but the solutions. Today's event is an initiative in the same direction. In the first place, we want to ascertain the challenges faced by our next generation through such a kind of dialogues and intensive research, and then interact with the movers and shakers and the policy makers in United Kingdom to positively influence policies in that direction. So it's quite important. We should participate. We should take part wherever we can. Either it's a politics, or it's a local politics, national politics, or other bureaucracies, or other part of lives, You can see we feel proud when we look at Amir Khan. Again, he's on the game side, he's not in politics. We feel proud when we look at Baroness Warsi. We feel proud when we look Sir Anwar Pervez. These are just few examples, but if we try to search, there are a lot of Pakistanis which we feel proud of, And that's what I think my organization aim and objectives are. We will bring them out. We will show the world. Here are the true face of Pakistanis. So, and again, Sir Anwar Pervez is like me. He is a shy person. He can't speak that well, but you can look at his work, what he have done. He done a great job. Wherever we speak, we take his name. So I'm not a good speaker, but again, I'm a doer, and inshallah, I will do, and I'll bring this, because I feel there is a gap between, there's no true representation from overseas Pakistanis. At the moment where we lost 100 billion plus US dollar, we are a poor country. We are a poor nation. So $100 billion is a lot for us. That means for us. And other hand, we lost lots of life. 50,000 plus people we lost in past. And on top of that, my previous colleagues, they mentioned, we we have a bad name. Rather than we getting credit what we are doing for the world, because whatever happening there, that's not what we have done. The whole world knows where that from, and who is at the back of that job, So again, positive influence the policies in that direction. It is high time we provide leadership to our generations and get them out of the confusion. In terms of identity and status, WCOP has organized landmark events starting from integration dinner to the Christmas dinner to move out of the same confusion. So we first of all, the magazine is in front of you. We went to YouGov and we request them and we organized a survey where we are lacking. We should be proud because we are doing fantastic job in UK, to be honest. And our main lack is we are not integrating. We enjoying talking in our own language. We enjoying to sitting with each other. We are not getting out. We are not sitting with other people. If we are not integrating, then how they will come to know us? How they will come to know us? What sort of character we are? How we can impress them or we can annoy them? So I think our most work is to impress. But we don't know the mechanism of impressing because we are not integrating. So that integration dinner, which we will be every year, we will celebrate that integration dinner, and we will take this message across the country and bring people out and explain to them, you need to go out, you need to integrate, you need to understand other communities, mainstream, and you need to show yourself. The clear message is that we could proudly contribute to mainstream society as a British Pakistanis, and we are not however, to make this contribution, we have probably worked twice as harder as native population. Attain more, be more patient and emotionally resilient, and we must challenge the preachers of hate who want to build tall walls among the societies. WCOP would continue promoting such dialogues, interaction, and endeavors where we could compete and inspire each other. And it would only happen when we all join hands together through constructive criticism and add value to each other's lives. So at the end, I'm really grateful to all of you. You spare your time, and you can see the spirit. Quite a few people coming all the way from central London and from Chesham and from Milton Keynes and East London, and Sajid Saab from Ilford. So inshallah we will take this to next step, and we will achieve our goal where we want to be, where we have the true right to be, and we take our nation there, inshallah. I just announced we are having a mushaira on 23rd of March, One Pakistan, by the name of Anwan, One Pakistan, and Ahmed Nadeem Ataul Hakasmi will be our main guest, and a lot of others good poets will be around there, and I'd like to invite you all, if you can join us. The details we will provide you on our website, and we can send you emails and text messages so you can have that details. Thank you once again. God bless you all.
Many thanks, Sayyid Kamaraza. Now, we already finished, in fact, and we got the survey from the YouGov. One of the salient feature was that there were two types of people. One of them, they interacted with Pakistanis, and one of them who never happened to interact with Pakistanis at all. Now, when they surveyed those people who never interacted with Pakistanis at all, they were only 32% positive about Pakistan or Pakistanis or what they have done for this country. Now, the second group who interacted with Pakistanis in any capacity, whether socially or professionally or in any other capacity, 85% of them were positive about Pakistan and Pakistanis. So we could see such a huge difference from 30% to 85%. But this difference is caused due to interaction. That tells that if we interact, only then other people are going to see how entrepreneurial and how positive this community is. And if we stay within our shells, then it is never going to happen. So this is the message that Sayyid Qamar Raza wanted to communicate, and we are going to end up over here. On 23rd of March, we are celebrating Pakistan Day in the spirit and substance and a huge community, with a huge community spirit, in fact, the culture, and having this Bain al-Aqwami Mushahara with 18 of the most famous poets in Urdu language from all across the world. So you all are invited. Many thanks, Sarah, and for all of you for your spirit and your support. If we have any question or comment, you're most welcome. Otherwise, we could interact when we finish that.
I just have a suggestion, if I may.
Yes.
This survey can really be very helpful, and I think we should animate that, project it to our community leaders. That is the approach. How to do mechanical work on that? Let's find out the mechanical arm to actually make a list of actions.
Yeah.
And I think, Kamal, we should sit down.
Yeah, I agree.
TVapex can really come forward and take this message.
No, I'm grateful, Dr. Saab, to you. Your support is with us, and TVapex is, you can see, all the way from Romford to here. And Dr. Saab is going to be part of board. Sajid Saab is going to be part of board. One of my sisters sitting at the back, she is going to be part of the board. A lot of people there who are going to join us. And again, the message is, we are here. You can see, she is my sister. We know each other since long. And you can see, I just try to serve this tea to everyone myself. I'm अगर मैं अपने अल्फाज में कहूँ तो खादम की हैसियत से, ठीक है? As a servant to my nation. And I don't need any. The people who knows me, they know I'm not a photo session person, and I'm not a person who want to stand on the front and I want to be a leader. I'm not a leader. I'm a khadam, and I want to serve my nation because I believe the true potential in Pakistani nation. I always, whoever come to my office, I always shows one from YouTube. When President Ayub visited United States, John F. Kennedy, President of United States, received him at John F. Kennedy Airport. And you must Google this, President Ayub visit of United States, and you will feel proud how they have respected our president, how they take him out on the street, how people standing on the street, and how they treat him. And look at the speech of our president, and look at the speech of the United States President. And then, that time, economically, Pakistan growth was really, really unbelievable. And people was talking that California is famous for his growth. So Californian economy Pakistan will leave a Californian economy behind, you know. So that was the Pakistan. And I truly believe we are crisis at the moment, and this time comes to all the nations. If you look at the Germany, Great Britain, and other countries, they face all this, but they come out from this, and we will, inshallah, come out from this. And Pakistani look at yourself. I'm simply saying, I need to look at myself, you look at yourself, and we have great spirit potential. We can switch back Pakistan, and inshallah, we will. And as Dr. Saab mentioned, we are 8 million people sitting in 144 countries. And honestly, we are always mentioning few names, but that's our program is. In future, we are going to bring out those people and bring them in a book and show the world their achievement. Doesn't matter, they made a big cash and carries, or banks, or cement factories, or they done something else. But all the departments, you know, either they are in education, they are in law, they are in art, they are in fashion, they are in medicine, they are in health, wherever they are. So we can show the world how we are and who we are,
Hello, my name is Arfan Bhati and I'm here at Cambridge University to talk about Generation Y, about Pakistani achievements in the UK here today and the obstacles they face. Today there has been a wide variety of talks from such academics, politicians, entrepreneurs. I have learnt a lot myself. Coming directly from the United Nations, I can say that this event has really been broadening people's horizon today. I appreciate hearing a lot of speakers today, especially Rabia Bhati, who really elaborated on the achievements of British Pakistanis and the obstacles they face, from political participation to all the way to the media. And, you know, there's been a lot of debate recently, looking at the survey polls, looking at YouGov. I think that events like this, Generation Y, are very, very important, and the upcoming youths, especially at the Cambridge University institution, have really broadened people's horizon. And what I mean by horizon is by getting the message out there. I thank everyone who has come here today, and I have learnt a lot myself. I'll be taking a lot back today, potential solutions to the event also. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Kausar, and it's really nice to attend this seminar because obviously, I mean, there are so many people, they have got different experiences, and I have learned a lot from their experiences, and obviously now I am going to apply whatever suggestions, recommendations they have given. They are really useful for our future, and obviously, I mean, it's really, in my opinion, it's really nice, and such type of events should be organized by us to bring the improvement and betterment in the community outside Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Councillor Rabia Bhati and I'm here today at the University of Cambridge at the Alison Richard building, where we've just had a fascinating discussion on Generation Y and the problems, obstacles and challenges that they face in Britain. I've just been speaking and had a fascinating discussion on the political challenges that young people face, and it's been absolutely fantastic, hosted by WCOP and delivered phenomenally by TVapex.
I'm Sayyida Sultana Rizvi, and I actually like this seminar very much, and I commend the World Congress of Overseas Pakistanis for organizing this event, because knowing about the challenges of Pakistani generation is very important to put them on a right track and to give them the confidence that they need now. And for me, I think Pakistan generation is younger generation, it's very important to contribute very positively to British society, because that's how you generate goodwill, and you generate good stories about yourself, and you correct your perception about yourself.
My name is Humaira Ishfaq. I'm doing my postdoctoral studies in Cambridge. Today I was engaged in the event of the WCOP. It was very thought-provoking issue which was discussed here. And I think it is very thought-provoking, and it is very brainstorming, because the Pakistani community is doing very well jobs in the UK. And they are just even Y generation is contributing in education and any field of other social and economic issues. And their services and their opportunities, it should be very highlighted, and WCOP is already doing this job. I think so. It will be more enhanced, these events, like which give the chance to intercooperate with each other, and the other community like from UK English people should be invited, and they should interact with the communities too, and it will be very, very helpful for the more understanding and the positive, very positive picture of the British Pakistanis in our society. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah Aslam. I am British Pakistani. I was president of the National Union of Pakistani Students and Alumni from 2009 to 2011. I'm now doing my master's at the University of Cambridge, and in between I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers as a management consultant. Why I took part in this event, frankly speaking, it is such an important cause. at the end of the day, we've got so many British Pakistanis in the UK. We've got so many Pakistanis in the UK, and it's so important to bring everyone together onto one platform. So it's been a fantastic event today. The World Congress of Overseas Pakistanis, TVapex, and the University of Cambridge Pakistan Society has all come together to collaborate on this very important event, which will hopefully impact the way that people think, which will hopefully actually impact the way that people think about British Pakistanis, and will hopefully impact the way that people are behaving in terms of how they go forward, in terms of integration and in terms of actually doing something for British Pakistanis.